Hello, welcome back. I'm Jeff Byers. I'm going to take you through how to lay out UVs, but we're going to go ahead and take you through the smoothing process and then cutting seams on a more advanced object with a little more curve in it. So the idea, if you don't know how to add edge loops to an object, you can watch my previous tutorial video on how to actually add edge loops to complex objects. Not that this is a complex object, it's just a cube, a rectangle. But you have to get the edge loops correct, otherwise it won't smooth properly. And as we know, if we hit the 3 key, we can smooth it and we can do a smooth preview. It's not really smooth, so we've got to make some adjustments to that and then smooth it properly so we can UV map it. Alright, so UV mapping and smooth preview won't work, so don't even try it. Won't work. You'll just be wasting your time. So I'll take you through the steps of getting all that stuff prepped. So a little prep work and then we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm going to get into my layers. I'm going to go ahead and do Control D and then click on the layer and place that in there, and I'll just call that low. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and smooth this. I'm going to hold down the space bar, go to Mesh and Smooth. Where are you at? There you go. And into the option box. So we're just going to do division levels of 1. Now usually when we do vases or vases or whatever you want to call it, anything round, we're using EP Curve tool and we convert it into a polygon. We're going to want the subdivisions to be around 2 and 3 depending on what you're looking for. But with the table and square objects, we're going to keep that pretty low for now, and then I'll talk about that later. It just makes it a little easier to lay out UVs if you don't have a whole lot of polygons here to work with, so that's kind of nice. So when that's done, I just hit the Q key and go to object mode. It's really important that we get it back into object mode, and go to edit, delete by type history, and modify freeze transformation, so make sure your center pivot is set. And right now we're going to do Control 1. That will isolate selected. You can also go to Show, Isolate Select, View Selected. You can turn everything back on again by doing a Control 1 again. So I like to go back and forth. I like to isolate things, so it makes it a little easier. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a planar UV. Now you could also add an automatic UV, whatever you want to do, but I usually choose the planar. It's just a little easier. So I'm going to do the Y direction. So you want to find the surface that's the largest surface area. That is this part right here, so that would be the Y-axis. You want to make sure bounding box is selected because it is facing the X, Y, and Z axes. If it was not, if it was rotated, you would have to go to best plane to get it to work. You also want to keep image width and height ratio. If you don't have that on, it will turn it into a cube instead of a rectangle. So I'm going to keep image width and height ratio. So I'm going to click on project. Alright, so when we look at the UV editor, we notice that it looks like that. It's in the right aspect ratio. So that's what we're looking for. So that's cool. So I'm going to minimize that. And here's our toolkit, which is kind of nice. We'll minimize that. We'll get into that just a little bit later. And let's right click and go to selection mode again. You can always hit the Q key. So we're all set up. So we've got a projection on there. And one last thing we need to do is right click and go to edge mode. Alright, so now we're ready. So now we're going to go to UV, 3D cut and sew UV tool. Click on the option box. Alright, that opens this up. And I suppose we didn't have to do that, but let's reset it and close it. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to click, get in here a little bit closer so we can see what's going on. And I don't want to do the outside. I'm trying to find more of the corners. If you see that this right here is kind of where we're going to start. So I'm just going to double click on that. You can just double click on edge. And you can do this one down here as well. Again, we kind of follow what we have up on the top. And I'm just going to do the corner here as well. So I'm just double click on that so you can see what I'm doing. And these objects are fairly easy to do. Again, I'm going to go hold down the shift key, double click on that one, and zoom down a little bit like that, and double click on that one. And we're going to double click on this guy right here, so that cuts the seam there. And so on and so forth. So that one, and that one, and then this one. And I think that's it. We got one more. And that one. So we got all these separated out. That looks good. Okay, cool. Alright, so now hit the Q key and then click on object mode. You can also right click and go to select, but it's really important that you get this back into object mode. So you can see where we cut our seams. They are white lines. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is go into my UV editor, and I don't need a large view, just a smaller view so we can see it, and zoom out just a little bit more. Alright, so now we can see that pretty good. Alright, so we are going to have 4 things open. We're going to have the transform open, scroll down, we're going to have unfold open, we're going to have align and snap open, we're going to have arrange and layout UVs. There we go. So those are the 4 that we're going to be working with. The first one is unfold, so we're going to click on unfold to unfold these objects. So I'm going to go ahead and click on UV. I'm right clicking over this area and clicking on UV shell. Just pick one, hit the W key and move it out of the way, and just do the same thing for all these pieces. Alright. Okay, so we want to rotate these objects. Now you kind of have to know which direction your texture is moving. So for wood grain we want to go this way. So if your texture is this way, we can pack this in here like this. That way it's going the right direction. These guys are the same thing, same way. If you have the wood grain going this way up and down, then these need to be up and down. So what we can do is I'm going to just try to be consistent, just have it go up and down. So I'm going to rotate, just hit the E key and to rotate. And sometimes this doesn't work, meaning that if you don't see the manipulator or get stuck, you want to move it and it gets stuck on the rotational, just click off and then click on again and try it again. There you go. It'll work. So let's get that pretty close. Let's get that pretty close. This one. And then just trying to visually get these lined up like that. There we go. And so let's just click on everything and then orient shells. Click on the orient shells. There we go. Now they're perfect. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is select, find out what the Texel density, that's the resolution and how much of the U/1 space, UV space it's going to take. So right now if I click on it, this is going to be under the transform, and then all the way it's pretty much on the bottom, and go to get, and you can see that it's 38.2727. So I want everything to be that, so I'm going to highlight everything and just click on set, and notice that the only thing that really changes are these. Right, so I'm going to go and click on W and just kind of move things around. Yeah, we don't want anything overlapping. And these, so let's go ahead and select these guys. And the next thing we're going to do is go to layout. So we're going to go to modify, and under layout, click on the box. Packing resolutions, let's set that to 2048. And texture size 4096, and we want to frame shell padding and tile padding to 20. Shell distribution, distribute, and packing region full square. Of course, you can change this to whatever you want later on, and we want the scale to be uniform. So let's go click on UV layout UVs, and it packed them accordingly and looks really nice. Now, since you can't see the bottom and the top at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and stack these two together. So I'm going to click both of these, and then I'm going to click on stack shells. And then I'm going to just move these over. Okay, or you can keep them right there. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just moving them over. And this would give us some space for other objects if we would like to put those in there. Okay. So we want to be as efficient as possible. I'm not really going to be that picky about this stuff right now. I just want you to kind of get used to doing this part. Alright, so with that done, then we're ready to move on to the next phase. So it's saving the UV map. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to hit the Q key again, go in and make sure it's in object mode. That's super important. Otherwise it won't save the UV out. It has to be in object mode. So with that said, I'm going to go into the snapshot setting and go into browse. It's important that you rename stuff properly, because you usually have a lot of stuff that you have in your scene already. So be very descriptive. So we'll put this in something like see, we're going to call this room. We're creating a room, or you can even put your name on it just to kind of make sure. Yeah, and do that for everything, and then you'll be able to find this texture. And let's call this room, and then underscore something like tabletop, right? Alright, cool. And top. Alright, so, and we'll underscore, and this say that's going to be our UV map. So very descriptive, so that should help. And save that. You always want to do either a target or a PNG when you save out your initial snapshot, because we want the highest resolution possible. The only time you would change this is when you're exporting it out and trying to save space and resources with Maya. So that would be a JPEG image when you bring it into Maya. So we want it to be a PNG in Targa right now. So I'm just going to do Targa. Everything else looks good. So apply and close. And that'll take just a few seconds, and then we can close that. And that is UV mapping your object. And then the next video, look for adding a texture to the UVs in Photoshop. Alright, I'll see you then.